back after too long of a hiatus this Christmas season. Welcome back to Bane of Morgoth Miniatures, that is. This Christmas season was, a lot. My in-laws are in from... I went out to my in-laws out in Idaho. I have my sister and her family in from Japan. It has been a wild ride. But we're going back to, yes, the Pit of Despair, where we started with this wonderful candy corn. I didn't want to do another attempt and fail this hard on video. So I took a step away and put a little effort into it today. And I think we're landing on a little crisper bronze here, like what we wanted on that little pauldron. And I have everything in front of me to do that. So we're going to talk about how to do a non-metallic metal that was given me the difficulties. First things first, let's just talk about my gradient here. We're going to start with this brown, which is just Mahogany by Pro Acryl. Adding in a little bit of this ice yellow, which gives me, as you can tell, I'm super with it today. Adding in burnt red, which gives me this middle tone color. And from that, I add in ice yellow, which is here and here in varying degrees. It's probably 50-50 mix of mahogany and burnt red. In that 50-50 mix, I added maybe another 25% to get me here, and then almost 50-50 to get me there. And then I'll need this over here for my final highlights. And this is my orange wash, which is done with a kind of lava orange. I tried it with a fluorescent, and I hated it. So don't do that. That's this color over here. Wasn't the winner. So let's go through and hit... You know what? Let's get right into it, and let's do the head. I think if we aim for something we know we like, the brain will kick in a little harder, and maybe we'll get that much better result. And painting on camera is always a little bit of a different fiend. But what we're going to aim to do here is make sure that most, if not all of this, is going to be covered with our base mahogany brown color. So I'm going to zip through that. And I want mahogany brown to be our shadow, so it can be everywhere. And while I'm doing the most fun step of base coating brown all over something, maybe I could have done this before the video, but I did get a critique on my first video that me airbrushing even a single step was too much. So here we are. You get to watch me do all of this lovely brown work. Well, while I'm doing this, I'm just being as specific as I can. The next steps, as we know with non-metallic metal, is about covering less and less in particular ways. My number one fan who had commissioned this has sent me multiple about 15-second videos of immense cuteness to inspire me to get back on the horse and stop being so slow. We'll get just this helmet done in this video, I think, though. And it's all about non-metallic metal is all about tackling the shape in the right way. So every piece of this, especially when I'm painting completely off the screen or right in it. I apologize, my camera mount had gotten moved because I am a tall man who hits my head on things when I try and walk around in my own room, get under my own desk to clean and such. So I want to make sure that first layer of brown is kind of all encompassing there. Now, funny enough, I added the orange underneath all this, and there's not as much orange here that there was underneath there. It does lend to this coloration a lot better. So, when we're working with non-metallic metal, we want to start establishing what colors go where. So this first highlight step, let me fix my camera a little bit here. It's driving me nuts, so I imagine it might be driving you a little nuts. There we are. This first step, I've got my darkest shadow color in, so I want to start getting the ridge of this a little more pronounced. The shadows are going to fall down and in there. This top ridge up on this plate here. This first step kind of establishes a lot of that. I'm going to bump my brightness down a little bit. I'm getting a glare. It makes it hard to paint. There we are. And I'm just kind of mapping in where I want to leave shadows. And I really don't want to leave a ton of that first base coat, but it is certainly tinting everything I'm doing. Paint layered on paint when done thinly, every step has a different impact and matters. So now we're starting to get into that red category. This is one of the first times, well, since this video I've done it a few times now, different non-metallic metals. One of the first times I've done any sort of glazing with non-metallic metals. And we're going to see that, a step or two of that. I'm doing a big enough piece of the armor that we don't have to like stop and take a nap and then come back to it. But glazing is essentially a really watered down version of the paint you're using. And when you glaze, you have to be careful because it does take longer to dry. And if you rush it, you're just going to peel your paint up. All right. So now we got some of that red established there. I always like to think about a cycle. So I worked up the brim, over to the eyes, onto the back of the head. And I'm going to keep running that cycle on repeat. If I hyperfixate on a point, if I try and do the whole thing here, just this little nose, little schnoz bit, then, oh, right, perfect. I love it when it goes in on my hand. If I try and do just this little schnoz bit over and over and over again, then I'm going to run into peeling up my own paint, and I want to avoid that. Now at this step, I'm going to really aim to start picking out where my highlights are going to start landing. So those big flat lines on the top I really like. And I have the light source coming from kind of this direction here. One of them at least. There'll be another one coming from over here, or else there wouldn't really be any reflection over there. And I want reflections all over this big trunky boy. Start drawing in some of those secondary reflections on the far side of the trunk. I'm going to hit this left side a little heavier than I'm going to hit the right side. Because if my light source is coming from the tip of my brush here, it'll, but not quite as much over there. That's a technical term there too. One thing that I really didn't take into effect in this non-metallic bronze process was normal metallics. I have periods of it I don't like. I like non-metallics. I really don't like certain portions of non-metallic gold, non-metallic silvers, metals. Non-metallic copper or bronze, what I'm aiming for here. Man, does it have portions that I really don't like. I feel like I've lost my mind for portions of it. And it's kind of when it's in its fledgling little pinky stage. See the little pink? Feels very pink. And you're wondering if you're making Barbie armor or not. As much fun as I think Barbie armor would be to paint, it's not what I'm aiming for on my hopefully epic elephant man. Just trying to pick out a few different spots. What does it mean to keep the video in focus? One day I will know, when my hand isn't so large and in the way. I'm just kind of going back and making sure I've established what I think will be my highlights. And like some of these low areas, I'm gonna lose completely. I'll have no highlights when all is said and done. Even now, I'm starting to get some kind of leathery vibes. So I think to get away from leathery vibes, nothing wrong with leathery vibes, but not for Mr. Elephant. He's more of a battle and less of a, don't know the word, leathery vibes. We'll keep cutting away and getting a little brighter and a little brighter here. Now, it is important to make sure you're keeping a good consistency of paint, because the less and less we do here, the more it's gonna demand us to be accurate. Establishing that strong line there. See, we're starting to get this. Now we are going to glaze over this. So if it's a little rough, that's okay, because the glaze will help us unify a few of these elements together. And each time you do it, each time you glaze it, it helps a little bit more. The problem with glazing is, man, the dry time can be long, long, long. So we want to minimize how often we're glazing, unless you are that golden demon aspirant and just really want those maximum creamy blends, in which case, glaze away, my friend. You will find something in that. I don't know yet, because I have not yet walked that path. Now, how do you hold something and get it in camera view? That's how, right there. So I had quite the exciting trip here in the end of December over Christmas. I went on a skiing trip for the first time ever skiing, I should say, so that I could ski for the first time ever. And it was 50 degrees the entire time I was in Idaho. That creates a little bit of a problem. The problem being, you can't ski in 50 degrees because Fahrenheit, in case I ever get viewers that are not in the States. You can't ski in 50 degree weather because it's, well, what do you say, too hot. So you run into that problem. So I'm just gonna, this is not something I did on that step. So as always, I have to dabble and try and experiment just a little bit. I'm gonna pick just a few spots, really the smallest, what I believe would be the really some bright spots along this, to try and get to punch that reflection that much more. And I'm not even doing this right side at all. I'm trying to just hit that left side. Now, here comes the part that I don't like. Glazing is something that is not second nature to me, or third or fourth nature, really. I'm really just grabbing water from a little vessel up there. Shout out to shot glasses as your watering cup, so that I might really, really water this down. You can see that how much that material is moving over here. Certainly not the same consistency of paint. It is a extremely watered down version. And now you take all of your beautiful work and you slather this orange mixture over it. And if you're lucky and you follow the right steps, it doesn't turn into the incredibly vibrant candy corn filigree I did earlier. Okay, now is when Josh, the person who's speaking in this video, who has done this before, takes a breath and he stops and he doesn't finagle much more with it, except for one more thing, because that little bit didn't get hit. There we go. Because this now needs to dry well. Because if it doesn't dry well, I'm going to start peeling it up, and it's really going to look funky. And this is an elephant, so he can't be funky monkey. He has to be an elephant. But we do get that bronze is starting to look. All right, I'm going to let you in on a secret. I'm happy. I'm finally happy. This caused me weeks, if not months, of frustration seeing this candy corn nonsense. I chose the wrong spots for the reflection. I went way overboard. I didn't think through the whole process. This, I feel, is becoming much more cohesive, much simpler, and much better together. Let me see if I can get this angle over here. Nope, I cannot because of my little handle. You can see I chose kind of two light paths on that. Let's see what we can do. Now that that brush is done, we need to switch back to our detail brush. I highly recommend, if you have brushes of a similar make, put a little dot on the end of them. This is my super detail brush is orange. My kind of meh brush is green, but they're the exact same brush. They're just overused on that green one. Now I want to come back through here. Now this step was very important. Those three pools there were what I used to mix in here, but by themselves they had terrible paint consistency, so much so they were unusable. So I said no, and I'm not using you, and I didn't. So now we want to make sure we get in those last highlights, and anywhere that's like actually reflective as opposed to the illusion I'm creating, that's still wet. You gotta be really careful, or else you're gonna muddy it up, and that is not the goal. Gotta think here as I'm finishing out this. I'm gonna do one more step of glazing and I think I'm done. Make sure you clean brushes in between steps. The most exciting part of painting is cleaning your brush. Get some really thinned out orange. See if we can get it all to tie back into each other. Hopefully it focuses really beautifully on my hands. I do have nice hands, I've been told, but I don't think that's the intent of this video. If you get a little too much in there like I just did, dab your brush off on a paper towel that you have handy. No whisk away. All right. And there we have it. A little buckler, top of his head. See if I can get rid of some of the glare that's going on here. Just some nice kind of bronzier armor there. And well, I'm happy with it. And at the end of the day, like I've always said, that's what matters. Is it the most clean bronze I've ever done? Yes. Is it the most clean bronze anyone's ever done? Absolutely not. But progression from this to that into some actual charactered art there, I think is a massive jump in my mind. And we'll see as I kind of piece together the rest of the armor how it feels. Maybe not all of his armor is bronze. Maybe it's just certain portions of it. But thank you as always for hanging out with me and dealing with my little bit of a hiatus there as I grappled with a new skill that I did not have the answer for. But here we are now, and we've made it one step further and a little more knowledgeable. As always, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, you know, whatever YouTuber has to say. I think it's in a contract somewhere. But have yourself a good night. All right, see you later.